Hi, welcome again to another program of the Yeshiva Classroom, and the purpose of this program is to show the beauty of Judaism, the beauty of the Torah, the Bible, aka the Old Testament to the Gentile world. But it's our only Bible, the Bible which was divinely given to us by God Almighty in the presence of 3 million Jewish people. Why do I say 3 million? Because the numbers are enumerated in the book of Numbers, where it speaks about the total number of people that stood in front of Mount Sinai on the receipt and seeing the Torah being given. And there are a lot of principles in the Torah that we fashion our belief on, because it's not something that we take lightly and pick up a custom here or pick up a custom there. But the basic ideologies are from the Torah, the Torah which was given at Mount Sinai. And the Torah comes in many forms. It is a book, it's a scroll, whatever form you want, and we recommend that every household should have. I'm speaking about the Jewish people, right? And I'm telling them that they should have in their possession a Jewish Bible, and they should read as much as they can each week the portion that is written in the Torah. But one of the portions that is mentioned, which is very significant, is in the book of Exodus, right? Where we have in chapter 32, after the problem with the golden calf, which the Arab, the Gentiles, brought in from the Exodus of Egypt together with the Jewish people, because, you know, they saw all these miracles and that they wanted to be part of the Jewish people, but they brought in some of their bad characteristic traits, and as a result, many of the populace began to transgress and think of this golden calf as some kind of an idol worshiping feat that primarily the Gentiles had brought to them with them because Moses did not return from the mountain, right? He said he would return from the mountain on a certain time, and the time was up, and they miscalculated and went astray. But the point I want to bring out is that God expressed His displeasure at this people at this time, and he told Moshe, as enumerated, as explained in the book of Exodus, chapter 32 and 33, said to him that I'm going to destroy this people, and I will make of you a great nation. Forget about the other people transgressed. And Moses, it was a test for Moses, because Moses wanted to save this people, and he pleaded to God that they should be saved and not destroyed. And as a matter of fact, it says over there that Moses said, if you destroy this people, wipe me from your book. B-O-O-K, the Sefer in Hebrew. And in other words, that tells us that there is a ledger for everyone. Moses says, wipe me from your book that you have on me. So God answered him in chapter 32, 34. He says, on the day of reckoning, I will take this transgression into account. On the day of reckoning, I will take this transgression of theirs into account. In other words, the day of reckoning when their lifetime is up, he will then take this transgression and apply it to all the merit that they accumulated during their lifetime, and hopefully the merit will overweigh the transgression, these 40 years that they're going to be traveling, and as a result they will receive a good mark and receive the soul world. Let me just read here. Over here in chapter Exodus, right? We have 5 books of the Bible. The second book is Exodus. And here it says, in chapter 32, verse 33, Hashem said to Moses, whoever has sinned against me, I shall erase him from my book. Now go and lead the people to where I have told you. Behold, my angel shall go before you on that day that I make account. I shall bring their sin to account against them. I shall bring their sin to account against them. So here we see that there is a soul world, right? This is not the end of our lifetime. This world is only to receive a ticket into the next world. Prepare in the anteroom so that you might enjoy your feast. So that is so important that we realize that in the Torah, there are many places that talk about the next world. But here in specifically, the chapter 32, where in Exodus, where Moses is saying that do not destroy the Jewish people, and God said, I will, on the day of accounting, I will hold this against them, and hopefully, like ourselves, because everything that happens to the Jewish people is transmitted to their posterity. And we today, hopefully, we will receive a good mark, and our merit will outweigh the transgressions that we accounted for, that were accounted against us during our lifetime. So we have to realize that there is a soul world. Now, interesting to note, you can try this experiment. And we're going to include a few things in this experiment, but basically you can try it on your own. And, you know, we want to do good deeds, right? You know, unfortunately, our brethren, the Reform and the non-affiliated, hold to the fact that we have to help fellow man, and that's anything else is immaterial. Fellow man is what God cares about. And of course, that's true. Fellow man is important to the relationship between man and man, and a relationship between man and God. As a matter of fact, when he speaks about Abraham, it tells all of the good deeds that he did in hosting poor people, hungry people. He waited outside of his tent and looking for wayfarers that he might help. And he even prayed for the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, which was destined to be destroyed. But but here we see that morals and ethics and your fellow man is so important. But we can't forget the fact that there is a God, and God has a message for us in which the Jewish people accepted. And that message is to live by his Torah, his commandments, and his ordinances that are brought down in the Torah. So that's what we're doing. In this age, many moons away from when we received the Torah, we are still complying and working to have an enjoyable life through the performance and teachings of the Torah. So here's the experiment. Abraham made a covenant with God that he will circumcise his son and make a covenant with him and the Jewish people, and that covenant is to be an indelible mark on the male organ when he's 8 days old. And by the way, this business of tattooing, making incisions into your skin, is prohibited against, and a Jew should not do this. So what happened over there? The child, like today, is brought into the covenant, B'nai Bris, and without his knowledge, he is brought into the covenant. He has no choice in the matter. And we say, well, isn't it sort of unfair? And we will answer that by saying that in the prayer of Emes V'Yatzav, which followed the Shemona Esrei prayer in the morning, it says how beautiful and certain are your words, the adjective describing all the words of the Torah that you have given us, and therefore that includes the affirmation of the covenant, So there we are affirming the fact that there is a covenant and that we are affirming it daily to say that yes, on 8 days we were brought into the covenant without our knowledge, but now that we're mature, we can read this prayer which affirms our allegiance and our acceptance of the covenant. Now you should try to look at that in the context of a question. Why didn't God? Why did God make us join the covenant at 8 days when the child has no say in the matter? That's the question, and the answer is, well, when he is mature, he can reaffirm that commitment he made when he was 8 days old. Now, that's a kasha and a teretz. Now, you should try to repeat that kasha and a teretz to yourself, and you will see that you will get a good feeling, because it's something that stimulates the soul, and it's like a soul exercise. It's not only that you have to do physical exercises of, for instance, helping the poor, feeding the hungry, which is important, but and that gives you a good feeling, right? That gives you the good feeling that you feel, and it's your soul. That feeling is not any of your organs, your heart, your liver, your lungs, but it's your soul, that intangible entity that is within everyone, and that is what we have, and that's how we can give exercise to the soul by doing good deeds, right? Feeding the hungry, clothing the poor, what have you, right? And 2, by getting that good feeling by doing a kasha and a teretz. You're feeding the soul. You're making the soul feel good, right? Just like you helped the old woman cross the street and you felt good about it, so you will feel good when you get a kasha, a question, and an answer. And I always wondered, so you have to try that experiment. You'll get that good feeling. You don't have to go looking for old women to help them cross the street. You can get it by learning the Torah, and which is in question and answer form, and it's so exciting when you can get that feeling, and you get that by working at it and finding the questions and the answers, which, by the way, are in the Gemara. And well, listen, what can I tell you? Here's another question and answer. It says in the Bible that the manna, the food from heaven, came down. It rained. It rained. R-A-I-N-E-D. It didn't say came down, but it says it rained. Now the question is, why use the verb rained? In that sense, it's a verb. Why use it using that word? And we learn out from that. That's a question. We learn out from that just like rain comes from up above, from the heavens, and rain it brings down the manna, which is the sustenance and income. So we have to realize that everything is from heaven. Everything is from heaven. Those people who earn more or less than others realize that it's from heaven that parnasa, or income, comes to us. But of course, we have to walk out of the tent to pick up the manna. And so they had to, so today we have to put our effort, histadlus, we have to put our effort together with God's effort, direction, to accomplish the goal that God managed for us. Right, and we want to go into that. So try to review that question and answer and get the good feeling. You don't have to wait for the answer. You get the good feeling when you get the question. And the answer, it gives you another good feeling once you understand it and realize how beautiful the answer is. You will feel that. That's soul food. That's exercise for your soul. And we touched on the subject of God managing our world, our life. And that's something that we have to realize, that especially a Jew, when he is going on his way, to realize that everything is in the hands of God. Everything that happens, history of the nations of the world, is dependent on how much the Jew keeps his commitment to the performance of the Torah, right? The more the commitment by a greater number of people, the easier it is for the history of the world. And all the destruction that we see, not necessarily amongst the Jewish people at this time, we have to realize that it could happen to us. All those natural disasters or so to speak, accidents throughout the world, there are for our realization that we have to improve, that we're going on a wrong path. And, an animal has the ability it's programmed, so to speak, into what he can do and what he can't do. You take a look at the cow or the deer or the raccoon. There's certain things he can do to avoid detection and defense, and how he is able to get his food, which is different than other animals. So he's programmed in that effect. But man has free will. And what happened was that in Genesis 4:22, God breathed into the soul of man. God breathed into the soul of man. And that breath, that soul that he implanted in man was what gave him the ability to choose between right and wrong. Gave him the ability to choose between right and wrong. He has that natural instinct to know what's right and what's wrong. But besides that, everything else is in his life is managed by God. Everything else is managed by God. The lifetime, his life, is managed by God. And we see this in the intent and desire of people who want to do something or want to go someplace, and and all of a sudden something occurs, whether his car breaks down or he's delayed for some unexplained reason, and you should realize that we're going on the wrong path, and we should make note of that and alter our course and think about a path that will be beneficial to us, and one in which God is steering us, directing us to go on. Now, you know, the fact of anti-Semitism. What is it that throughout the world we see people for seemingly no reason hating Jews? I mean, the fact that people have never come in contact with a Jew, or for any reason, on the other end of the world, we hate Jews. We dislike them. They're no good. And the Jew is trying to figure it out, and the rest of the world is trying to figure out why we have anti-Semitism. And the French Railroad gave thousands of dollars to a university to study the fact that Jews are discriminated against, and it seems that they're not a people that are criminals to that extent and hurt people or are fearful of them, and they're just law-abiding citizens for the most part, and the world is still wondering. Well, the Jewish people know that the reason is that we have gone away from the Torah. Many places in the Torah, aka Bible, the Jewish Bible, we only have one Bible. The New Testament has not anything to do with the Jewish people or their beliefs. But the Jewish Bible, the Torah, is our teaching, and in the Torah, many places does it explain the covenant, and basically the covenant are promises, like in chapter 28 in Deuteronomy, chapter 17:7 in Genesis, chapter 26 in Leviticus. And all these places, it says they're basically imprecations, curses, promises and imprecations and reward. Promises, imprecations, and reward. Promises that if you do good, it'll be good for you and your people. And if you look at Leviticus chapter 26, 1-14, it says, do the commandments, ordinance that I taught you, and you will be happy, healthy, and successful. Happy, healthy, and successful. Your cattle will be healthy, they will not miscarriage, and all kinds of great things. That's in chapter 1-14. The sentences 1 to sentences 14. And sentence 15 says, if you do not do these commandments that I taught you, then all the curses will befall you. That's chapter 26:15 in Leviticus. Read it. Most of you don't even have a Bible. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, right? But today you can be a Jew and so you call yourself a Jew on a particular level and not believe in God or not know anything about the Torah. But whatever level you're at, you have to come back and reach out and come into a higher commitment to the charges that have been given to you and to your ancestors throughout the years that you have traveled throughout the present exile. And we see in chapter 28 in Deuteronomy the same story. From 1-14, all kind of blessings and rewards and good things if you keep the Torah. If you keep the Torah, right? Perform the mitzvahs. And then verse 15 says, but if you do not keep the mitzvahs, the curses will befall you. If you do not keep the mitzvahs, curses will befall you. and that's the reason of anti-Semitism. If we don't keep the mitzvahs. Hitler didn't give the Jewish people a choice when he threw them into the gas chamber. He didn't give them a choice like in years before, where the Jew was given either you convert to my religion or I will burn you at the stake. Very few people choose the former. They would not convert. They would rather be burnt at the stake. But when it came to Hitler, if that same choice was not given to them, because he knew that God knew that the people were in such a level that they would all convert to their foreign religion, and assimilation is worse than intermarriage. Assimilation is worse than intermarriage. So we have to be careful and realize that the evil inclination wants to take us away from the basic directives that our forefathers have charged us with. So that is the answer to anti-Semitism. Not to give the monies to some colleges that they should do research into all kind of crazy things and to come up with some kind of an answer, but give it to the yeshivas, to the schools of learning, where you can learn the kasha and the Torah and understand the basic principles of Torah, the basic principles of Torah and the basic ideologies, and that is the Jews have got to be on a straight path, committed themselves to learning Torah. Just a thought, a tangential thought here regarding the existence of God. You know, anything that we are in doubt about, you know, in our surroundings, in our environment, we say, well, that's Mother Nature. In other words, if you see you bite into an apple, for instance, and you come near the core or the seed chambers, you will come across a plastic shield that you can't chew on. And you say, well, how did that get there? You know, how did the tree produce in each apple a plastic shield? For what purpose? And the non-observant will say, well, that's Mother Nature. It's Mother Nature, preservation of the seed. True, it's preservation of the seed that you won't bite into it. You won't bite down and inadvertently eat the seed, which is not good, and also you're biting into a free coupon that entitles you to plant another tree. So that's why we have the plastic shield in the apple, and the same thing we have in the peach, or in that family, where the hardest part of the tree happens to be the stone pit that surrounds the seed. Right? You can't bite into the peach because you'll bite into the stone pit, and that prevents us from eating the seed that's inside. But once you drop the stone pit into the ground, there's an abscission layer that divides the stone into halves, and that automatically disintegrates, opens the stone, and you can have the seed drop into the ground, and you're planting another tree. You're planting another